What's up, Outliers? Welcome to another video. Today I actually want to just kind of go over my backstory a little bit because I've done a podcast on my story, but I haven't put anything onto YouTube talking about kind of who I am, where I came from, and where this all kind of began for myself. And my goal overall is to actually get stories from other coaches and also just individuals in their health and wellness journeys, and also like professional athletes, and get their stories, from the get-go. Because obviously doing the podcast is wonderful and great, but there's definitely something about video and actually having that like interaction, feeling like you're being spoken to rather than just voices coming out of speakers. So just kind of want to change it up a little bit. Plus, doing all the performance bites and stuff, super fun, obviously very informational based on certain subjects, but I really kind of wanted to go over a little bit more about myself. So, kind of to break into that, when I decided to go this route of health wellness, this is such like a subcategory to getting into the body, because ultimately, I grew up racing motocross. I started racing when I was 4 years old. Like a lot of people in the sport do, start very young, and have raced ever since, minus a 6-year stint where I actually didn't ride a dirt bike at all from 14 to 20. But when I was in middle school, high school, I was breaking bones quite often, and also had a shoulder surgery my senior year of high school. But all of it was just kind of like weird. It wasn't like, I was doing anything too crazy to cause these breaks or surgeries to happen. At least the surgeries were pretty minor. But, I grew up with stomach issues, which caused my stomach to have to go get scoped multiple times. Obviously back then my parents didn't know what to do to help that be better, ultimately like what that cause was. So that's kind of like, I would say like the wellness side of things that I kind of get into is a lot because of my own journey through my stomach. But with the body and the physical stuff, I started breaking bones when I was pretty young. And it's funny because people are like, oh yeah, of course you've broken 9 bones and had surgeries because you raced dirt bikes. And it's like, no, none of them actually are from dirt bikes. Concussions, yes, but as far as like my broken bones and also my surgeries that I've had, like the knee and the shoulder surgery, nothing to do with moto actually. So quite funny, always kind of a thing in a conversation. But when I was 4, I cracked my skull on a bicycle, not on a dirt bike. That was kind of the first thing, which obviously when you're that young, you don't remember too much. But when I was 12 years old, I fell out of a loft in a barn, which then dislocated and broke both the bones in my wrist, this whole thing. And that was kind of like my first like big break. Then when I was 14, this is where it kind of starts. Because when I was 12, I didn't really know I wanted to get into the body. It didn't really interest me. I don't even think I did physical therapy for that wrist, which thankfully it's actually pretty good. I'm very lucky in that, because looking back on it, it was like a really bad break that never really got like rehabbed. But when I was 14 years old, so 8th grade, I had just completed my track and field season, and so I went and swept districts in the sprints and also long jump. So I was kind of like the next thing for high school track in my small town of White Sand, Washington. But yeah, that summer I was out with a friend and we were mobbing around an orchard in a John Deere Gator, and we lost traction and slammed into like a 100-year-old cherry tree, which obviously the cherry tree did not budge at all. However, my knees went up into the dash because those things don't have seat belts. So my knees went up into the dash, actually stood me up, and I ended up even like hitting my head on the tree because it like kind of folded me forward. And so that broke both my legs. So that broke my right patella and broke my left tib vertically. So at the tibial plateau, it broke about 3 inches vertical downwards. So kind of like a maul hitting a log, just kind of split it. So that was not a fun thing. Obviously, was very stoked to be doing well in more traditional sports, and then I break both my legs. And thankfully, everything was in place. I didn't have to have surgery for those things. Though the ER told me I could weight bear on my right leg, which was the patella side. Thankfully, we went and saw a specialist literally like, I think 2 days after. And they're like, it's a good thing you didn't try and walk on it, because if you would have, it would have split the patella in half, because there was only like a little like shard that was holding the top of my patella to the very bottom tip. And so if I would have put pressure on it, the patella tendon would have caused tension and cracked that off, and I would have had to have a surgery. So luckily that didn't happen. When I saw that specialist, they're like, yeah, don't weight bear. So at that point, I'm in a wheelchair, 14 years old. I actually had a mohawk, and it was quite funny to have a mohawk rolling around in a wheelchair. And, you know, the doctors and everyone's like, oh, you know, like, I don't know if you're going to be able to run like you were, because I was, you know, a sprinter. It's a very aggressive, high impact movement. They're like, we don't know if you'll get that back. All this stuff, which is, you know, a bummer to hear at the age of 14. Got to make you like feel like you're disabled at that point from, you know, a place of your legs. And so went to physiotherapy, and the physiotherapist, she was wonderful, and kind of was like the first introduction to the body for me, and was like, hey, no, like, we'll get you back. This is what we're going to do. We had this game plan and everything. And obviously I don't remember a ton because I was 14, but I do remember it being quite impactful, because she shared a lot of knowledge and information about the body, which was, you know, obviously at that point I really cared, because I wanted to be able to run again. And I lost, you know, all my leg muscle obviously through that process. But coming around freshman year, I didn't participate in any sports until track, because I still wasn't released to. And I got released like probably like a month and a half before track season started, to start, you know, running and stuff. So my legs were still pretty skinny, but I was able to still make it to state that year as a freshman for the relays, no individual event, but I was able to make it. And that was, you know, quite a big deal considering what had happened with my legs. And so that was kind of like, okay, I want to be a physical therapist. This is obviously something that is, you know, helpful for me, and it's obviously helpful for a lot of people. I would love to do that for people. So all through high school, I was like, I want to be a physical therapist. This is, you know, the route I want to go. I think maybe for a short stint of time, I was like architect, just because I do like that stuff. But that was short-lived. I stuck with what I really enjoyed, and especially, you know, going through biology classes, going through chemistry classes and stuff like that, and also having even like human biology my senior year was like a big confirmation of like, I really enjoy the human body and what's going on and why this, why that, how this functions and whatnot. So going into college, you know, I had a very successful track career in high school, which was enough to get me to go to college and earn a scholarship and everything like that. So went sprinted in college. I started my degree in exercise physiology, because essentially like exercise phys is a prerequisite to like being able to do physical therapy. And with NCAA rules, you have to declare, or at least you did, I don't know if this has changed, you did have to declare your major fall of your sophomore year. So I was 19 years old, and I'm like, okay, I'm declaring my major because I have to, and also I want to go to physical therapy school, so I'm gonna declare exercise phys, finish this out. And I stayed in exercise phys through sophomore, then I want to say it was spring quarter of my junior year. They changed the curriculums on us for both exercise phys and exercise science. So I met with my advisors and talked to them like, what can we do? I don't want to stay here a 5th year, because that's essentially what was going to happen. Was a lot of people had to stay a 5th year in college because basically their credits didn't count towards the major anymore. Thankfully, I was able to make it work. I had to do summer classes and to finish it out and everything, but I was able to make it work. Had to switch and declare to exercise science, which was okay with me at that point because I, having ran a couple of years in college, I was like, I really like the strength and conditioning side, the training side of things a little bit more. Physical therapy school is very competitive, also very expensive. So just like kind of learning more. So decided to go with the exercise science route. And then what was cool about that curriculum change was actually they added in biomechanics, which became probably my favorite thing that I did in college, and probably the biggest thing that I use today as a coach is those biomechanic classes and learning basically physics of the body and how all of this ties together. Because biology is important, physiology is important, the chemistry is important, but when you're a coach or trainer, you need to understand the mechanical movements. So having learned the biomechanics, that was like a huge deal. And, I was kind of frustrated that they changed it, but ultimately putting those classes in were huge because we had an awesome lab, force plates, cameras, and all that sort of stuff. So it was pretty cool. Graduated, or actually I shouldn't get there yet. So senior year, obviously knew I wasn't going to go to the Olympics in track and field. So I worked a lot. I started as a custodian in my rec center, actually sophomore year, and that got me in with the rec center because everybody wanted to work in the rec center because it's on campus, it's close to everything, especially being a student athlete. That's like a really nice thing because you're just like, go to work in the morning at the rec center, then go to your classes, then go to practice in the afternoon and stay all on campus. It makes it super easy rather than having to like bounce in the town and stuff like that. And I got to work in the gym, so that's cool. So senior year, they started to hire what they called trainers in training, which what I would say is the fitness manager at the rec center was also one of the professors for my degree. He actually taught the strength and conditioning classes. And so he was hiring 2 people. I was fortunate enough to be one of those 2 people that got hired as a trainer in training, personal trainer at my rec center my senior year. So that's kind of where it began. It was like August of 2014, I think would be when I first started. And I didn't have to have a certification then because I was a trainer in training. I think I was making like $11 a session type thing. Still working in custodian as well, but I saw that track had an end and I needed to start learning how to work essentially, because that's how the world works. And so I finished up my exercise science degree, and then I actually had to do a 400-hour internship, which ended up being an unpaid 400-hour internship. So it was 10 weeks, 40-hour week. And that was basically my whole summer after graduation in 2015. I worked at the OHSU in Portland in their fitness center, personal training center, stuff like that. So I think it was called like March Wellness or something. But what was cool about it is I got bounced around between departments. So I got to go and do a lot of shadowing with nutrition, got to do a lot of shadowing with physical therapy, cardiac rehab, and all these different places, and actually kind of like see, which is cool because it was like, I could have gone the cardiac rehab route. I just needed a BLS certification, which is a super simple cert. And I could have gone cardiac rehab route, which would have then put me into working in hospitals and stuff like that. Last is intake breathing, which intake breathing is obviously a nasal strip, but different than other nasal strips. Quite cool because we actually have these tabs that I put on my nose, which have a little metal piece in them. And then the strip themselves actually have a magnetic input on them. So when you bring it up to the nose, it actually will click and will dilate, which is wonderful because it's going to increase nasal breathing, which so many good benefits to breathing through your nose. It's going to help filter, humidify, and even produce more nitric oxide, which is a great thing for vasodilation and just overall circulation. So definitely a neat tool. I've used it for about 7 years now. Quite crazy to say that. I used it when I was running obstacle course racing and motocross. So you see some riders still using it today in moto. But if you want to check it out, you can do that by going over to intakebreathing.com/outlierathlete. Use code outlierathlete for 15% off. A business or a hospital that like you're worthy of being there. And then I did have a certification at that time through ACE. I was a CPT. So qualified, ready, lots of hours of doing it, and yeah, still. So there's some other stuff there, but went to 24-hour fitness that was actually across the street from me where I was living in Beaverton, Oregon, and just said, hey, are you guys hiring? They asked for my background credentials and they basically like hired me on the spot when I came in, which was super cool. So very quickly started working in personal training, very quickly started to accumulate clientele and doing a lot of one-on-one coaching with, Gen Pop essentially. And that was a great way to get going because I learned so much during that time about like how to build clientele, how to build rapport, what worked, what didn't work. I was dog shit at programming back then as far as like workout creation, exercise selection. I didn't quite know why or what. I just knew how to kind of like bring it together. But as time went on, obviously you get deeper into things and you learn more through real world application over just like books. And that was quite significant because I spent 5 years at 24-hour fitness from 2015 to 2020 and was, serving 30 to 40 sessions per week quite, frequently, pretty regularly. That's how it was. So accumulated over 10,000 one-on-one training sessions over that time, which is, quite crazy to look back on like that. But it was it was really cool. And then when COVID hit, everything shut down. And so I was just like, well, I don't know where I'm going to go with this, but I need to do something different. And that's where I decided, hey, I have all this time because, I'm not able to work the way I was. I have this time to study and get ready to take a different cert that I actually always wanted to get, which was the NSCA Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. And that's kind of like the gold standard. If you're not familiar with it, it's recognized across the board as kind of the best coaching certification that you can get. The test is quite tricky. The information I wouldn't say is tricky per se. I say that now. But the way that the test questions is that's where it's like, they try and trick you a lot. And you have, it's like 2 hours to answer 120 questions and then an hour to answer another like 60 to 80 questions or something because there's 2 different sections. So it's just like really fast paced questions. And so if you don't read the question right, you'll select the wrong answer type stuff. So it gets pretty tricky. And so the first time I took it, I was able to pass the one section, then I missed the other section by 2 questions, which was pretty shitty because I had to wait 100 days to retake it, which was basically the whole summer. Because I think I took it originally like in the middle of June, and then I couldn't take it again until the end of September. And so went back in, took it, all was good, passed. And biggest reason why I didn't pass was because I read the 3rd gen book and not the 4th gen book while I was studying. So there was just information that I had missed on the updated version, which was just my bad. Anyway, that's where this all kind of began as far as running my own business. And, Outlier wasn't what I started with. I actually started with Evan Nystrom Lifestyle and Performance, which didn't take very long for me to be like, oh no, I don't like my name being on this. And that kind of came from Eric Cressy, who is a strength and conditioning coach for professional baseball. And one thing that he said was like his biggest regret was naming his business after himself because his name is now attached to it and he can't change it. It's too solidified. So I was kind of at a point where I was like, I got to change this. I also need to relaunch it and make it different. And that's when Outlier came. But I did do Evan Nice from Lifestyle and Performance, I want to say, for like a year and a half, which that was kind of like my intro into working with professional motocross athletes, because I just had a buddy who was racing professionally, and he was down in California training, and he just kind of put a plug out that led to the next thing. So that was kind of a good intro. And then I've been working very hard to expand my reach, essentially, not just doing moto, but also all other action sports, because I love them. I really enjoy, snowboarding, rock climbing, mountain biking, skateboarding even. So those things I'm trying to bring into Outlier more and get more athletes that are not just motocross, because there's so many people out there that really could benefit from the training, which is why I've made so many different programs that you can go look at on the website at outlierathlete.com. And, preset programs, or, even custom programs, depending on what somebody's looking for, I made sure that I'm covering my basis. And I have a lot of run programs as well, because obviously big background in running. They're mostly not sprint based, because not a lot of people are sprinting later into their years, but there's a lot of good running programs to help people, do distance style running and mix that in with strength and conditioning training. So yeah, you can go check those out. Those programs are awesome, but that's why I'm actually trying to change stuff up a little bit, because I enjoy working with a variety of individuals. Kind of like early in my career, I got a lot of different people working one-on-one at 24 Hour Fitness. So, when you kind of work with one set of athletes, being just moto, it makes you kind of want to reach out and work with other people, just to expand, for one, business-wise, but two, also to challenge my own capabilities as a coach and programming and stuff like that. It's all going to be different. A little bit of crossover here and there, but it's really kind of the big reason why I wanted to branch out. And, Outlier is slowly getting there, but it's definitely been kind of hooked in with moto, because I've had so many professional motocross riders that I've worked with. But going to continue to reach out and help other athletes, because it really doesn't matter what your sport is. At the end of the day, training in the gym, strength and conditioning wise, you're trying to just be the best version of yourself, so that when you go doing your activity, you can basically access that athleticism, on the field, on the track, whatever it is. So kind of the biggest thing there is just recognizing what people need. That's kind of where we've come full circle with this whole thing, coming to where I am right now with Outlier, and helping other people. So kind of looking back on everything, it's like my wellness or my health really comes from having such big gut issues as a child, and throwing up constantly and all this stuff, and not really knowing why or how or anything like that. And like I said, my parents didn't know then either, but as soon as I turned 18 and started to kind of follow my gut, so to say, and eat things that I feel like I needed to eat, I started to get better. And then as I worked my way through being a trainer and a coach, I've learned more and more on the nutritional side of things, on the holistic side of things, on trying to basically heal my body, heal my gut. And that's such a big, important part to my overall performance. And I found that to be such an important part to any athlete's performance, is to look deeper in and not just, focus on the aesthetic of how an athlete looks and how they move, but also what's going on deeper. And so I'm kind of grateful for these two things to come together, because having all those injuries as a child, and I didn't mention this, but they thought I had early onset osteoporosis, because I was breaking bones so frequently, which turned out to be totally not the case whatsoever. But it was kind of a funny thing, because it was breaking all these bones. I'm having, shoulder surgery my senior year, and knee surgery after my freshman year of college. It all made me more and more interested in the body, and how to rehab the body, and how to optimize it, how to reduce injury and make it as good as possible, essentially. So that really fed into my undergrad studies, and then also my continuing education as a professional in the field. Has just been how can we make this the best version of itself? And I guinea pig on myself a lot so that then I can speak to certain things when I work with people. So kind of, as I said, it's a full circle thing because the wellness side of things kind of crept in and found out that that's just super, super important. So welding those two things with the health, with the performance, bringing it together, that's kind of where we're leading with Outlier and kind of where it's going as far as making the best programs possible for people, making the best experiences possible for people, no matter what the sport is. And that's kind of the plan moving forward as well. Continuing to do videos, continuing to do podcasts, basically extending information as much as possible, because anyone that's watching this is watching it for a reason to learn and also to grow themselves. So if I can be a facilitator of that, that's ultimately the plan. So yeah, thanks so much for sticking through the story, watching. Like I said, I want to get stories from other people and bring them in and share them as well, because I'm interesting only to a certain extent. So if I bring in other people, share other stories, I think that would be a good thing. But like I said, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff, so the algorithms love it a little bit more, but also more people can learn more about Outlier, which then hopefully gets the brand growing more and more. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.